Our intention today is to walk you through the features and enhancements that have been done in the last 6 months. We understand that some of you would be already using this, would be aware of it, or perhaps have not put it into implementation. And the idea behind this webinar is to help you get into an understanding of what we built so far, how you can use it, how it can help you. And I sincerely hope that this session also will be as useful as possible. Would like to begin with the first topic on the cards, that is dark mode. In today's world of us consuming content, either of our desktops or via smartphones, right, our exposure is completely on this white screen and the blue light that is emitted by it. We understand, or the reason behind we wanted to bring in dark mode is because studies, which may or may not be conclusive, do explain that watching content over a darker screen definitely improves visual ergonomics, easy to the eyes. You can adjust screen brightness and have it reduced to a lower rate. And of course, it's easy to use a screen in a darker environment. In fact, there are studies that also say that this will help you sleep better because the blue light that comes in onto your eyes at night when you're scrolling through the phone is actually not helping you enough, and you could have disruptive sleep patterns. This, of course, can be debated, but we understood that what the pain point is, and that is where we decided to bring in dark mode. See, doesn't it already feel lighter onto the eyes? So we have a certain reference from the earthweb.com where we understood that about 81.9% or more users of smartphone category end up actually preferring the dark mode. And in fact, the rate of adoption of the dark mode facility provided on phones or on websites or applications is somewhere between 50 to 70%. So keeping that in mind and also understanding the needs of our publishers, we decided to bring in dark mode. How can you control that? I will be walking you through the demonstration on the product in about 5 more seconds. But we wanted to provide the option to our users to be able to enable the dark mode on the front end via a toggle on Pagebuilder. You cannot just change the theme into a dark mode. You have the freedom and the liberty to choose colors component-wise, be it on the landing pages, be it on the story pages, in fact, the global story elements. And while you are doing those changes, you have the option to even see the preview on Pagebuilder on how exactly your website would look like. Let me take you on to Pagebuilder. So where exactly would you enable the dark mode? You will have to go to the header settings here. And this toggle right here, which says display the dark mode toggle on the header, that would be the one that you would have to check. Do you see this light symbol of the moon out here? That potentially is what the dark mode symbol is about enabling it on the front end. If I publish the changes right now, voila, you will be able to see this here. And a quick move between the two, you will be able to switch into the modes. Moving back onto Pagebuilder, as you can see here that currently what you see on the Pagebuilder is also on the light mode, and you could switch between the two to visualize what your website would look like in the dark mode. How to control the combination of colors out here. So now if you go into settings and if you go into the palette, you would notice that you are now making changes to the colors in the dark mode setting, right? So you could work on the choosing the primary color for the dark mode. Or if you were to go component wise, there you go. You just change the color into a blue for this particular component. If we were to move to a story page, for example, once again, you could play around with colors out here, or you could reset and let it be the primary configuration that is already present. In fact, our global story element as well, we provide the theme out here. That probably this is how you would like to showcase the colors when it comes to a dark mode. If you have articles have got global story elements, components in it. All in all, of course, as you're all aware, we don't publish. None of these settings that we keep saving or we do not save will not get published onto the main website. Interestingly, we also retain the last setting that was chosen before you close or you come back to Pagebuilder. Just the way we provide the option that a user reading your website in the dark mode, and if they were to return to it later on, they would be able to see the website on the same mode. Similarly, for Pagebuilder, we do the same. And the dark mode is still retained. So this was a little about the dark mode functionality that we've offered. It pleases us to inform you that we have about 4 or 5 of our publishers actively using the dark mode, and I believe that has improved the reader experience for quite a few readers of theirs. Moving on, redirections on Pagebuilder. Now, we understand that an experience a user probably has when they reach on a certain link of the website and that's not functioning, and if they see a 404, it's obviously not pleasing and they're bound to bounce off. Setting up redirects for broken, duplicated pages, right, helps ensures users in search engines that they find the most relevant pages and the current pages. In fact, it is recommended that users should always be redirected to a page where there is content visible. Yet again, a good user experience, and in fact, avoid as many SEO problems as possible. Keeping that pain point in mind, we decided to bring in an option to place permanent or temporary redirections on the website, permanent being 301, temporary being 302. You can have either absolute links being redirected to a certain page that you like, or you could have rule-based or param-based redirections. We recommend that publishers moving to Quintype or anyone who's going through a change in their information architecture should make use of this feature so that users are not lost on your web pages. This is where you could actually set the redirections. Allow me to demonstrate it to you. I will switch back to light mode. You go to general settings, manage, and if you go to manage redirections, you will be able to see the redirections page here. If you wish to create a new, you could enter the source path, which again could be either absolute or param-based. What you see here, this is an absolute redirection link that has been picked up here, and this is a param-based path. You could put a destination path, and you could choose the redirection category as well. A little more to talk about this redirection category. We weren't doing this, but we brought this change as well, where we brought in cache control redirectives in place so that if you update or remove any redirection, the old users do not continue seeing the old links in it, right? So with this cache redirective that has been brought, this cache control that has been brought into place, if a 301 redirection is either updated or removed, it will take about a week to get into effect. And if a 302 is updated or removed, it will take about a day. So if I were to take this as an example, you are now redirected to the business page. This article potentially doesn't exist, and you're now redirected to the business page, and the user is not lost. And that's the kind of experience we don't want our readers to face. Moving on, my favorite topic, web stories. So ever since Instagram and Snapchat came into the picture, we all know how stories took a toll on everybody's daily lives. The world is headed towards web stories, right? And it's gained popularity in the recent years. And for obvious reasons, it's visually very engaging. It's got an immersive nature to it. It's easy to create and consume. But having said all of that, how do we convert that very engagement into monetization? And we understand that ads and the revenue coming from ads is extremely important to all of the publishers. So we brought in the option to add ads via visual stories, ads to the visual stories, either via Google Ad Manager or Google AdSense. You could choose either, and you could add the necessary details, whether it's the ad unit path or the client ID and the slot ID, and you could have the ads visible on your visual stories. So once again, general settings, go to manage, AMP configuration, and there you go. Once again, the moment we brought this feature out, we had some of our clients implement it instantaneously. I would like to show you some of their web stories. This is Sam TV, and they use this feature on a regular basis, especially for their horoscope. And there you go. This is another publisher. And voila, another ad. So we sincerely hope that those who started using this feature, well, this has actually improved the experience for all of you. And of course, engagement is directly converted into monetization strategy. I would now like to hand over the dice to my colleague, Jeevan. He'll walk you through a couple of features out here.
Cool. So hello guys. Thanks Mansi for handing over. The feature we would want to discuss today here would be shortcodes, right? We here in Quintype look forward to providing scalability and flexibility as part of any of the features we develop. And shortcodes is one good example in which that is pretty much displayed, right? I'll go through what shortcodes are in its essence. It's as simple as where the system fills in blanks for you, which is required for your components or scripts to function, right? For example, let's say if you wanted to know the page you're on, right, and the script or any code you have written for your implementation or for your site wants to function just for a particular page type, that is something we can achieve using shortcodes, right? And why do we want it? Let's say there are endless possibilities of scripts which can come into your website, and they would need some code data from the site to keep to function by themselves, right? For example, the name of the section or the particular story path, the story slug, and whatnot, right? These are some of the items which will be pre-filled by the system for wherever you have inserted these codes, right? And we can access it in the general settings with insert custom code, which is pretty much there, which we can see in the next image, right? So let's go through the example we just iterated, right? Let's say you have a script which you want to paste on the head of your page, and it needs page type as one of the information to process it, right? So what we can as easily do is we can click on the copy shortcode, and the particular page hyphen type, which is within a bracket, is sort of replaced on the server for your script to handle it, right? And this is applicable in all of the fields which you see on pretty much here, the head, the body, and all of the pages which is on the left side, right? You can play around and manage your scripts pretty well, right? And some of the examples which are listed below is section names, the section display name. These are pretty much interesting for any of your content or the functions to happen on a particular page or a particular site, right? Please do post your questions. If anything there was confusing, we can clarify it, right? Mansi, if we can move to the next one, right? So in the last feature, we saw things about how a site can provide data for your scripts and help them function. And there could be a contrary use case of it as well, right? Let's say you're sharing your link on some social media, or your site is being crawled by a couple of crawlers from Google, from Bing and whatnot, right? And if there is a use case, and we have had a use case coming in from a couple of our publishers where a particular content of your site was not to be seen, right, by the crawlers themselves. So our HTML provides us a way in doing that. Let's say there is a particular widget, it has some data in it which is not related to your site in a direct manner, and you want to pretty much avoid that being crawled, right? So there is an attribute called data no snippet, which you can paste into a particular element of the HTML. For example, in this particular snippet, we wanted to ignore a collection called aside collection, and we just give it a data no snippet as true, right? So what it ultimately does at the end is, when the crawler looks at an attribute called data no snippet, it will ignore that particular block of HTML code and proceed further indexing your site or crawling through your site. Yep. And that's pretty much what I had. We'll be taking the questions at the end, I believe. So we can, back to you, Mansi.
Cool. Thanks, Jeevan. That was pretty short and sweet. All right, moving on to the next topic, which is an interesting feature. Most of our clients are using this, and that is quite great for all of us. So localization. How would you feel to give that enriching experience to your readers where everything is localized to their language that is suiting, that's comfortable to them when they have to consume content on your website? We're already doing that at a great level where your entire content, from the stories to the videos, have everything written in your localized language. And that kind of commitment to your customers, all right, is enduring, and it only will lead to increased engagement on your websites. Yeah. So we have brought in localization at every level possible, whether it's showcasing date or time, whether it's buttons and labels, whether it's the sign-in or the subscription workflows, search, 404s for that matter. Allow me to demonstrate it to you. I have certain help items with me here. Right. So if you go to general settings and you go towards custom labels, this is where you will be able to see labels in multiple categories, and you would be able to choose in what language or what word would you want to replace the certain default value on the front end. Let's choose date and time, for example. I'm going to choose something in the months and replace it with September in Malayali. I am now replacing the word hours with Hindi, and also ago with Hindi. You would be able to notice this in the element 4 hours ago or 6 hours ago that we generally see when a story is published. And I would like to change another element out here, which is right. Let's take a look. So if you notice now, the word September has been replaced, and you are able to see it localized in the language that is most comfortable to your preference. If you also notice now here, you see the name Ashik written, and next to it you see 3 ghante pehle. This is in Hindi, which was technically 3 hours ago initially, right? And if I were to move to an article, you will notice that now the show commence label has been replaced to, I will not pronounce this incorrectly, but yeah, this is in Marathi. right? And you can see hide comments is still in the word English. So this is the level of localization we brought in. I would like to take an example of one of our publishers, wherein every single element there has been localized. So much so, from the 404 page to the meta title to the description, every single thing is in the local language. And I believe that brings in the empathy to the readers, the connect. I think that the readers are able to draw with the website. And of course, they enjoy consuming content. We encourage you to use this as extensively as possible because it's a nice feature. All right. Moving on to the date and time that is displayed on the websites. When it comes to news, right, two basic metrics that are important or of interest are recency and relevancy. Freshness of a content is what the readers are looking for ultimately when they're consuming news content. And you already had this feature on story pages where we had the flexibility to show updated date time or the published date time, or in fact both at story level. We have now brought this at the entire website level where you can control what date you would like to show to your readers, whether it's the latest or which is the updated, or whether you would like to show the first published time. You have that option. While talking of that, I would like to inform you that we deliberately kept live blogs separately, and you will now know why. So go to Pagebuilder, settings, manage. Under time settings, there is a section called time to store on story cards. At the moment, you notice that the value for live blogs is updated time, and for all the other story types is published time. Please note that this only controls every other page except the story pages. Story pages, you will still have to control what date you would like to show at that level. For all the other pages, for all story cards, for all cards wherever we are showing stories, that will be controlled from here. Whether it's author page, tag page, wouldn't matter. It will show one type of date and time across the website. So if I were to show you the current behavior, this is what you see is a story that is a text story on the home page that is showing a published date. And what you see here is a live blog where you can see the most recent, hence the updated time. So hence the recency part is playing here. You can always choose to show the published time, but we understand and we recommend that live blog anyway is all about the most recent updates that we'll keep doing on it, and updated time is our recommendation. Some of our clients, some of our publishers have actively started using this feature, and we are glad that it has helped them. At this moment, they are showing updated time across their website because that's exactly what they show even on story pages, and they would like for that synchronization of date and time to be there across the website. So if I were to go back to our test website, currently what you see is the published date and time, and at the live blog level, you're noticing the updated time. If I were to quickly change this. Well, now you will be able to see in some cases that it's the updated time that is showing. Of course, only for stories where there was an update present. So that's about, and you will be able to validate it when you notice this on the story pages. I hope you're still with us. We've not lost you. And I'd like to move on to the next feature. And now, Jeevan, back to you for the finale.
Right. Thanks, Mansi. So we'll start with this slide. This particular slide is a little on the technical side of things. So I'll start with what PWS are in general. With improvisation of or how browsers scaled up pretty fast over time, features were to be adopted for a particular feature would be adopted for their versions of browsers which would support it, right? So in the tech world, we did it in a progressive manner. Right? At this point, what we did was we pretty much handed over all of our content to a mechanism called a service worker. What it used to do is it was used to delegated a task of showing what the data was, caching the data so that it can load faster, and so on. Right? Doing this also came with its own drawbacks, such as how the data used to update much later than the comfort of a time zone that we were in, or for example, how some of the widgets did not load at a particular point of time. This was a direct impact on the monetization aspect of our publishers, which was pretty evident in our analysis, and we did figure it out. This was combated with a solution which was in place. It's how we turned off the PWA feature, right? So how why we just understood why we did it and what those are and how we sort of solutionized it. We came to a point where we did the disabling of PWA such that, and the result of it was pretty good. We saw the ad revenues rise up. We saw the widgets rendering consistently on each of the pages, and all the UX pretty much became better over time, right? So this is something we can look at in the general settings. Yeah. So that particular option which is currently on can be toggled off. Right. So this will disable something called a single page application, which is sort of a UX term wherein it shows the loader and the next page progresses. Here it just goes back to the server, renders it fresh. Yeah. That was pretty much the PWA part of things, where we concentrated on the monetization. Going forward, this is something which Google announced in pretty much, I think, 2020, the earlier time of 2020, where it was deprecating third-party cookies overall, right? And it was soon to be followed up by popular browsers like Mozilla, Safari. Safari anyway was stringent about what it used to allow and what it barred to allow completely. So after this being in place, we had to solutionize something which would have a tracking of who is visiting your website, what is their behavior, how do you identify a user who is anonymous, right? So you could tie a session around the person to eventually gather enough data to model that person. There are many use cases pretty much around it. Like, for example, you could provide customized ads. You could give out suggestions in your ads. You can send out recommendations. You can target notifications for that user. You can target the search, anything on your site, right? This was pretty much the reason behind how the route we took to enable for first-party, first-class support for our publishers. Right? How it functions pretty much is a unique identifier is assigned to a user for that session, and it's valid to an year, for example. And every time the particular user comes to your site, he has this tracking ID associated for his session. So this will give you more control on your data than what a third-party cookie could have given, because you control the length, you control how the identifier is, you control when it expires and how it's used, right? And it's much more secure in some terms with respect to a third-party cookie, right? So considering all of the use cases which first-party cookies can be used for, it's a pretty well developed feature. I do recommend people to use that. Okay. So moving on, after we sort of crystallized our roadmaps, considering flexibility, customizations, engagement. There was one thing we did look at pretty much was security, right? Going through all of the effort, our publishers do come up with like pretty great content, and we did not want that content to be used by anybody, right? Anybody with an iframe can pretty much render your entire site on their site, right? We do not want the revenues or the impact of plagiarism or any of those along those lines to impact our publishers, and we did do that with the use of our restrictions on the cross-site scripting, right? So how we did that was, Mansi, if you could go to the next one. Yeah, we implemented the thing called content security policy. So what, in essence, it does is it does not allow any person to have your site on his or her iframe. It just does that where you can allow a particular set of domains to do that. So if you look at the screenshot here, so if in the CSP frame ancestors, we can type in a domain and only that domain can use your site in an iframe, right? So this could be your affiliates, your content providers, anybody, right, who you would want to have your site on. So those domains will be listed in the whitelist domains input field, right? So that is pretty much what CSP is all about. I think, Mansi, back to you.
Thank you. And guys, well, with that, we actually come to an end of this webinar where we are done with showcasing you all the features and enhancements that we've actually worked on. Our teams, our tech teams have diligently worked on it. Our CS teams and AMS teams have tried to reach out to you to explain you these features and to have you guys actually adopt this. What's next for a head page builder? And what you see here on the slide are potentially the key themes that we've been working on and we would like to continue working on. So we understand that for all our publishers, the success matrix revolve around the performance of the website, SEO, and UI, UX enhancements, the engagement that the website will actually bring for your readers. And these are the key themes that Head Page Builder is working on. And we aim to deliver good, useful features and enhancements to you even in the coming quarter and the coming year.